Everybody. It's really fun to see you all here today. Welcome to your Nature Journal workshop. Um, you are with us today I'm John Muir Laws, and we've got our co-host, Evea Moore, the mad botanist. And we are also joined by the Harbach family all the way from Wisconsin, where it is cold and there are swans. And so we're going to hear a report from the field, and then we're going to take a look at drawing swans together. I think this should be a lot of fun today. So it's good to have you all with us, and all you folks out there. Thank you so much for joining us live today. At the end of our workshop, we'll also have a chance for people to share any kind of questions that you have, thoughts or ideas, and perhaps some pages from your journal. And it should be a lot of fun. To get us started, Evea, would you let us know about some of the opportunities and cool things that are going on in the wide world of nature journaling that people might want to take part in?
Absolutely. Well, for one thing, some of you might already be aware, but a certain special something happened on Monday. Any guesses as to what that was? It was Jack's birthday. um, so, yeah, we wanted to wish Jack a very, very, very happy birthday. And we are so happy that we're here with you and that you've brought us together like this.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
With consistency and kindness. And like, for how many years has it been now since the pandemic began? Like 3?
I think like 3.
It feels that way.
And before that, but like, you've consistently brought together this international community and created this space that a lot of us have already realized how much you got us through the pandemic, but also afterwards that you keep being consistent. You have really kept like the space where we celebrate love of nature and good health. And so thank you for that, Jack.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. So today we are joining the Harbach family in Wisconsin. I got an email from you maybe a week or so ago about the swans that had descended in your area. And we thought that this would be a fun thing to do. I was wondering if you might just sort of tell us about your experience going out swanning, what you're seeing with swan behavior, and about your experience so far in sketching them and observing them as a naturalist.
Yeah, we love swans, and we don't get to see them much where we are. We're on the very east side of Wisconsin along Lake Michigan. And so you really have to kind of go west a little bit usually to find them. At least that's been my experience, my very limited experience. But we love birding, and we really wanted to see them this year. So there is a local naturalist who was posting. We had some interesting weather fronts come through, and so they were coming ahead. I guess they really like those winds. And so we had hundreds in our county. And that was probably at the beginning of the month more. So I have a golden retriever who likes to be the center of attention. He's going to bother us a little bit. But so we went looking through farmers' fields, drives through the county. We found one large flock of about 200 in a farmer's field. And then we went north in the county and found about 50 more. And it was just fun to watch them just be so majestic and lovely, and how they interact. And there's at one point, the larger group, there was some Canadian geese coming through looking like they wanted to land, and all of a sudden the swans got very loud, and the geese kind of changed their mind and went somewhere else. There was a few Canadian geese with them. At first, when we found them, I wasn't sure what kind of swan they were because they just looked so huge. They made the Canadian geese look like ducks, the 2 or 3 that were with them. But I didn't have my binoculars. And later it was confirmed they were tundra swans. All these were tundra swans coming through. So was it maybe last week, was when they did their final shove north. I heard they're in Acton now, which is a little north and west of us. And there was a group of over 1,000 in one spot, but we weren't able to. Violet got a cold, so we weren't able to leave and go and check that out. But it was really cool.
Jack,
I think you're still muted.
Hi, audio jack? That's better. Okay. I was just saying that I hope that cold gets better and that you're all able to head out there before the whole pulse of their migration heads through. That's a wonderful, wonderful observation. So yeah, seeing, I remember when I used to work in Grand Teton National Park, and we'd get whooping swans there, and it'd be like a really big thing. Like there's a swan or two swans in this pond, and we'd go and we'd look at the swans, and it, you know, a field with 1,000 swans in it is. It still just feels wrong to me, because I was introduced to sort of swans as like here or there, because I saw them not during the pulse of their migration. I would see them out distributed in their breeding area. That is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful experience, and I'm glad that you got to see that. And I'm glad that you're taking advantage of that together. So what I want to do is to show you some strategies to help you get those swans into your nature journal. And we're going to actually use this as an opportunity to think about the swan three-dimensionally. And so kind of the easy thing to do is to kind of like, here's the silhouette, here's the outline. We'll be able to get that pretty fast. But then the minute the thing starts kind of turning around and it's white, it's sometimes in our heads we just kind of boil it down to it's just a silhouette, and maybe I'll put a shadow on part of it. But in your head, kind of keeping that as this three-dimensional form is a lot of fun. And so the strategies which we use for drawing the swan, you can apply to doing all sorts of other different things. So we'll check in with you at the end of the workshop here, and hear your thoughts about that. And I hope that you enjoy this little bit of swanning together. All right. I am going to now share my share screen over here, and we're going to be taking a look at swans. And on one side, you'll see the swan, and on the other side, we'll be drawing our picture of this. And hold on a second. I am just remembered that I want to. Hold on. I am going to my meetings. I'm going to join this from another tablet. Nature Journal Workshop. All right. I am ready now. So what we're going to do is, well, let's go swanning together. I have my share screen ready, and we are going to go here. All right. Here is there we go. So I think that on the right side of your screen, you are seeing this tablet. Yep. And on the left side, what I've got is I've just opened up two web pages here. And these are two of my favorite sources for reference material from a couple of dear friends of nature journaling. This is the webpage by Ashok Khosla, and it's called Bird Pixel, and he's invited us nature journaling people to use all this material here as sources for reference, and encourages us to do that. And I also have Bird Pixel, the website of Vivek Kanzodi, and also just wonderful photographs of birds and swans. We're going to be using both of these websites, but if you want to on your own be able to do this, just remember birdpixel.com and seeingbirds.com, and we will work with that. All right, I'm going to start with this photograph here. And I'm going to take my little friend the swan here and make it big. And then over here, let's take a look at how I would think about getting this critter onto my paper. So if you're familiar with my sort of my way of drawing mammals, where I start with the line of the critter's back, this is going to start very much the same way. And so what I do is I look at, you can see the, if you can see the little floating arrow on your screen, I look at the shape of the air behind this animal's back. So here, you notice this is sort of, this is sort of more of a little acute angle here. This one on the left, this is more kind of 90 degrees. Oh, it's still an acute angle. But I start with that negative shape. So if I'm looking at the swan, I'm so distracted by the shape of its head and its beak and all these details that I very often don't get the general shape of the body. So what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to draw, here's the air that is behind this thing's, behind this bird's head. And if I move it over here, and then the back kind of slopes down like that. So this is just a little line that shows me the general shape of the air behind the swan. So this is the non-swan. And then what I do is I am going to, now normally, if you've seen me draw birds before, you'll see me first sort of start something with the, oops, we're off the screen, nope, wrong way, there we are. You'll see me start with that negative space behind the head. I then block in the head and back, and I block in the head, put in a little negative shape in the front of the bird, and then the body of its bird, of the bird, and that is my kind of go-to for kind of blocking in the general shape of a bird. So the order of operations in this was first the back, then the head, then this other negative shape here, and then the body. I'm going to do this swan slightly differently. So if you've been using my approach for drawing birds, you're going to see that this technique is slightly different. Rather than do the head now, you see, I find that getting this neck to be the right length is important, and I find it challenging to do. So what I'm first going to do is I'm going to kind of put in a body, so I've got something to kind of help me get that neck length proportionate. So what I'm going to do is I am going to kind of roughly put, block in an oval down here, and then turn that to be a little bit more angular. At this stage, I'm not looking at the circles in this body. I'm more looking at the just sort of the angles around it. So I'm kind of looking at this as a shape with a corner down here. So it's kind of coming actually more flat here, and then it's tilting up, right? So I get this body shape. And then I've got something that's a little bit more concrete for me to kind of get this neck length relative to. And so I am going to want to make sure my neck doesn't start too close. I don't want to have my neck coming up from the front of the body here. My little goose, my little gooseneck, my swan neck is
Jack,
going.
I'm sorry to stop you. It says something about time machine on your.
Oh, oh, that's great. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you for pointing that out. So this bird's neck is kind of popped back here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put this little bit of neck up here to help me sort of place the next little bit. So here is this negative shape. It's kind of coming in as a little point. See this little arrow pointing in here? So I'm looking at that space behind the neck as an arrow. I've got this set back, and now I'm not going to necessarily have to follow this little line that I had to tell me how long it is, because I really wasn't thinking about how long that head is. I want to be thinking here about, if I do put my head down here, it's going to feel kind of Canada goosey. This is a really long neck. And if you've drawn a lot of geese, you'll tend to draw the neck too short. So I'm going to make my neck longer than I am comfortable, because I'm comfortable drawing a Canada goose. If I put my head up here, I'm just initially going to put that in as a ball. And I'm just looking back and forth at the length of that neck. I'm thinking about how long is this neck compared to this space here. And that's looking okay for me. So now I've got the length of it. I'm going to refine that a little bit more by having my neck come out and then back. And then on the underside of this head, my neck is going to come down in a nice little curve. Too much of a point right there. I'll shave that off. And now here's my ball of my head. We have a tendency to draw heads too big, so just be aware of that it's easy to kind of put in a big head in here, and then it's not going to look like a swan. And a very long beak. The beak is coming out flat from the bottom of the head. And then there's a big slope down here. So I'm kind of feeling my way around this bird, feeling my way around the sketch. Initially starting with a negative space, blocking in the body, and then just trying to get that neck to be long enough, knowing that I've drawn a lot of ducks, I've drawn a lot of geese, I haven't drawn a lot of swans, so it's going to be, my brain's going to tend to make that neck too long. Then you saw me looking at those negative shapes to construct that neck. And that the head construction is similar to what we do with ducks, where we're used to on a bird sketch having the beak come out in the middle of the head, right? So you have your little beak there, and the eye sits on that line, and then here is your bird head. It's not going to be that way in ducks, geese, and swans. That beak in these pecking birds, the eye is sighting right down that beak to get a snack. But if you did that and you're sticking your beak down into the mud all the time, you're going to get mud in your eye. So here is the structure for the head. I'm going to give myself a little oval for my head and a line that comes out from the bottom of that, not from the middle. And then different species of ducks, geese, and swans, the angle on the forehead is going to be different. But this has a fairly consistent little angle that comes up. And then we're going to kind of get into our head here. Under where that beak attaches to the head, let's put a little cheek in here in our little bird, and the eye sits up high on the head, and then our beak is going to attach into that. If you're really close to the critter, you'll be able to see a little bit of the throat comes out underneath the beak. So it's not attaching like this, just straight into this. There's actually some beak that comes out, some feathers that come out underneath that. Give your swan enough throat and as you don't draw the back of the neck first, because then you might not give yourself enough throat here. So draw this front of the throat first, and then you can make sure you're making your neck thick enough to be a reasonable swan. So once I've got my friend blocked in, I can and as I come around the head here, I'm going to use a combination of solid lines and a few little kind of broken lines just to suggest that this is feathery. The final thing I'm going to do is I'm going to intentionally look for the contours of some shadows on the form. I don't want this to feel like a big flat surface. So what I'm going to do is I see there's a little bit of a shadow underneath the throat in here, kind of curving up around the edge of the cheek. And I can put that in. A little hint of a shadow will want to be down here. And also often on the top of the cheek, there's a little angle change so that this surface right in here sometimes picks up a little bit more light, meaning that in a little bit of contrast, I can see a little bit more of a shadow in this area. And that kind of just sort of pops that cheek out. So now going back to, now that we've kind of looked at our head a little bit more. I like the way the swan eye connects into the beak. The little yellow patch up there. So on this sketch, I'm going to do the same thing where I'm going to, as this line comes down and around, I'm going to suggest just a little bit that there is some fluffiness that goes on. Now, this little crease in here where the neck is plopped down, I'm going to make that not as quite hard a line, and I can put a little bit of shadow right in there. You'll notice that we're not seeing a whole lot of detail in the body here. Like, what are all the feathers doing? If I don't see it, I don't draw it. Here in the front of the body, you'll notice there's a little change in angle right in here. Right, that's where the front of this neck comes in and it connects to the rest of the body. So expect a little angle change in here. You'll see the same in ducks and geese. This little shadow line here, we're seeing the bird's tail sticking out. And I'm going to kind of emphasize the shadow on the underside of that. Kind of it sticks out, makes a nice little ridge. Oh. Now, what about all the leg and the wing in here? So there's a pad of feathers in here that is going to cover up the front edge of the leg. And that pad of feathers is sometimes overlapped on top of the wing if it's been down for a while, or sometimes the wing is on top of it. So we see the kind of the edge of the wing in here. The wing is going to be occupying this area in here, but we're not really seeing that really strongly. So I'm not going to really emphasize it as much as I did this little shadow under the tail. Up here, there's a faint little shadow right in this area of the bird. That is the sort of, this is where the bird's back and scapular feathers are. And we have actually some breast feathers kind of pooching out over the top of the wing here. Just a faint little shadow there, but it's at a place where we're kind of going from different kind of feather groups in there. I'm going to put that in just to help sort of suggest the shape and the volume. Now, depending on what the bird is doing, kind of walking around, you can see, so actually, let's just actually look at this, a few of these sort of lines. See this edge of the wing here. You see that edge of the wing there. So we're looking at the same things. Here underneath the tail, bold shadow. Underneath the tail, bold shadow. This little puff of feathers here. That's this little puff of feathers here. Now let's look at the leg positions. This bird's foot is coming down here. So its foot is going to be on the ground down here, and its big web foot is here. Notice that that is underneath. If you were to take the center of gravity of this bird and you're to put it down here, this is where your balance point of this bird is going to be. If I put this leg too far backwards, the bird will feel like it's falling forward. So here it's got all its weight on this one here. And hold on just a second. Right. So it's got all its leg weight on this one leg here. That leg is coming down here. When I'm thinking about this drawing here, you need a bigger beak, don't you? Yeah, I'm not drawing a duck. I've got a swan in here. Huh. So I want to think of the weight of this drawing, and where I'm thinking that if I had to balance it, I would probably find a balance point somewhere around here. So that means that this bird's leg is going to be coming down somewhere around there, right? That back leg. So I've got a little bit of that leg coming down. And then I'm losing it in the water. This other leg could be, sometimes they'll stand on one leg and kind of hide the other one in their feathers. But here you see this other one sticking down here. It's not going to be weight bearing. It's going to be coming down, and I'm seeing part of that there. So the part close to the body is a little bit more swollen. There's a joint right in here. And I want, do you see how this looks like I've got two legs on the same side of the body? I'm going to make this little line here, this belly edge, just a little bit stronger. But I want to make sure that this one is pointing down right underneath here. Now, I want to now start thinking about this little sketch as a three-dimensional form. A three-dimensional form. These shadows are helping kind of give you a little hint of that. But something that I will often do is I will think of kind of what a contour line would do if it were to kind of be wrapping around this bird. If I, so maybe kind of coming out here, flatter on the back, and then somewhere in here it's going to hit an inflection point and kind of go down at a steeper angle on the wing. Right? On here on the back, it's a little bit more cone shaped. But you see, by making some of these little kind of concentric rings around this, this helps me think of this bird as a three-dimensional form. And you can do that on any drawing as a little study to help you kind of think of like how, if I were a raindrop and I were falling on the side of this bird, where would I be going? If I want this bird to feel white, you notice there's an awful lot of purple all over this. To make this bird feel white, the way to do that is to have dark next to it. So that bird is going to feel light because of contrast So I often am careful as I'm going right around the edges of the bird. But then in this area, I can be really kind of smudgy. And what that does is it makes, want to see this bird get even brighter? Look at this. This is some really dark blue. It's in Dathrone blue. Put that in, all of a sudden your bird is bright. Contrast is your friend. Turn this in. Similarly, I can think about the light on the belly of this bird. Test my color here. I've got shadows in these areas. A little bit of that just gives volume to that bird. And those lines that I did, those contour lines, just sort of help me think about that three-dimensionally. If these are out in bright light, you can actually get warm light off the back. Sometimes the belly can even reflect some browns from the ground. Sometimes you'll see on clear days, you can get even blues reflecting off the back. So you can get some whites. The whites can have a lot of color into it, but so people will still read it as white. Having dark behind it makes a big difference. Let's take a look at a different swan. So this swan. Let's take a look at one that is floating around in the water. The way I'm going to approach it is going to be very similar. I'm going to first look at that nice kind of dark bank behind it. Oh, that really kind of pops that head out, doesn't it? But look at this negative shape, kind of comes down here in this very acute V that then opens up here. My back is kind of doming, and I'm going to have my tail sticking out here. So if I were to make just a quick sketch of that basic shape, what I would do is I would start with something that is going to give me that shape of the back and that V. I'm not going to stick my head in here because look, I did it again. This neck is too short. I'm going to first kind of get a sense of how big this body wants to be relative to this bird. So I'm thinking this body, here's a kind of a dome on the back. I have my tail sticking off here. And then for the water line, if it's a very distant bird, here's a distant bird floating in the water. A distant bird, you're going to see a very horizontal line where the water hits the body. Or if there's chop and wave, then that can be kind of going up at sort of splashy angles. But if it's closer to you, as this one was when the photographer took the picture, here's its body floating in the water. That edge of the body close to you, the water line, instead of being basically a straight line across it, is going to be a curve down and a curve up. Because you're looking down on this thing. Of course, if you were looking at it from straight above, the water line would be going around the body like that. So as you're looking at it, this is where it would be if I were looking straight down on it. This is what it would do if I were a little bit more above it. This is what it would do if I were a little bit more above that. Oops, I'm off my page. See, there's straight water edge. So I'm going to give this a little bit of a curve. This part here is narrower.
Could you raise up your page just a bit?
Ah, thank you. So it's subtle. If this were a straight line, it would be right across there. But so it's going to come towards me. I'm going to actually bring it a little bit more here, and then we're going to come back. Now, when I put this, I'm going to kind of refine this a little bit. Remember on this goose over here, or swan, where I was looking at those angles, getting this angle and this angle, boom, boom. the same thing is going to be here. I like to think of sort of angles and inflection points. So on this dome of this thing, the dome isn't, it's a little bit forward. So there's a little bit more kind of a higher point here.
Can you scooch over just a bit?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you. Now let's work on that neck. That neck, I want it to be higher than I have. All right, so maybe up here. How does that feel? Is that high enough? If I were to take that back and that head and kind of rest it back on the body, how far back would it go? And think about arching that up. Yeah, roughly that'll work. So again, looking at angles, there's this angle on the back of the head, and then we have our straight down. And then we're actually angle. And bring that forward more. See, I would have cut this off and then there'd be too much space here. I was about to, do you see I was about to put the back of my neck here? But because this is my sort of preliminary drawing, I can still move things around a lot. I want my back of my neck coming down here. And then my head here. Make sure that there's enough neck. And if it's going fast, you'll see kind of water flipping up here. So there's kind of a little like bow wake that you'll get on a bird. If it's not going fast, then you'll see that as more of a kind of flatter curve. I've got too much angle in my neck. I want to have enough here, so I'm going to bring this head out forward. So you notice that at this point, there's just lots of little kind of micro changes that I'm making in the proportions of this thing. I'm moving the head around. I'm making the head wider. I'm changing angles. All of this before any detail happens. But once I like it, I'm going to give this bird a little bit more of a angle down here before we come out on the beak, to put a little bit of an angle in there. I'm going to give it a big swanny bill. This line comes up to the eye. I really like looking for angles. This little angle on the back of the head here is going to be really useful in getting this head shape. So I'm going to make sure I'm going far enough back and giving you that
Sorry, Jack. Could you?
Oh. Where would I be without you? Thank you.
Perfect.
Now, for kind of playing with the body, I am going to, what I want to do is just sort of suggest features. Here are the bird's scapular feathers up in here. Here is a big triangle of the bird's wing. There's this clump of breast feathers, all these feathers that are piling up here, right? They are coming up over our side of our bird here. Tail at an up angle.
Oh, sorry. Might help if
I zoom out a little bit.
possibly, or maybe it was.
Oh, let's see what's come. I'll just try to keep this little critter. Actually, if I. There we go. All right. So I want to suggest these feather details without putting in too much information. So to keep this as a white swan, I'm going to kind of keep this minimalist. So I'm going to put a suggestion of a shadow around this little edge here. So that is around this little bump in here. I'm going to put a suggestion of a shadow at the edge of these scapular feathers. I'm not going to draw in all these secondary feathers that are in here, but I can put in kind of the edge of this little wing that is popped up here, and the edge of the wing in here. And then I have my tail sticking up. You will often see this joint sticking up as sometimes it's hidden when the duck is moving its leg, but when it's paddling around, or the duck or the goose or the swan, you'll see this little ankle pop up as it is moving its leg around. And that's all I can see of that leg. And for the shadow under the tail, I'm going to put some shadow in here. Notice I made those marks with a little bit, you can see some of those strokes that just help suggest that plane of that body. I'll put a little shadow under its head, a little bit by the top of that cheek patch. So again, with this beastie, I started with looking at the negative shape behind here. I know that proportions on these, my brain is going to get wrong. So I didn't initially put in the head as I'm accustomed to do. I kind of waited till I got more of the mass of the body, so then I could look at how long I wanted to make this relative to that. I'll put a little bit of watercolor on this. And in this little study here, I just put in dark behind it because I just wanted to say, like, hey, look, this is a white bird. If I wanted to draw something more that is sort of feeling like it's in the habitat that I'm seeing, well, I've got some things that are really working for me. There's this bank that is right behind it. Here's a couple of things that I'm not going to do in putting this bank in. I'm not going to put the bank right here so that it looks like it is resting on top of the swan's back. I'm going to move it up a little bit so that I don't run into this problem of a tangent line. So if I've got a shape here and there's another line like that, people will assume that this line is sitting on top of this rather than here's something in front with this other object in back. I could either have that shoreline be, if this is my swan, I could have that shoreline be up here, or if this is my swan, I could have that shoreline be here. But I don't want it just to touch the top of this. So actually, I'm going to move this down. I'm going to bring it down like this. And similarly, with the end of that bank, I don't want the end of that bank sitting here, right here, underneath this bird's head. If I have it down just a little bit like that, then it is clear that this bird's head is not sitting on the top of that bank. So again, if I were over here and I had my little head sticking up and the bank was right there, you'd have the feeling that these lines were somehow resting, or these were resting on parts of these lines, and it would be visually confusing. So that's what I call avoiding tangents. I'm going to put some blue in the water here, kind of a blue-gray. I want to avoid using a really, really bright blue, or it will feel cartoony. I then have my bank here. That bank is going to be dark. And then I'm going to have some green here, and I'm going to avoid using bright kind of Crayola green. With adding in some of these darks, I'm going to be able to then put some colors into my swan. And that's going to, actually I might start with that. So I'm going to kind of, my swan has a little bit of brown in its head. And, you know, I put this in and it starts to kind of like oh no, it doesn't feel like a white swan anymore. But you'll see when you get dark behind it that that kind of comes back. I have a little bit of smudge of dark here. I'm going to put in some shadows on my little critter. I usually put those in first, but I was so excited about putting that brown in I couldn't help myself. But I've mixed up a little bit of sort of a purplish gray. Right now that's too strong, so I like to kind of just take some of that paint off my brush. And then I'm going to suggest that I have some colors here. Get rid of even more of that. And I'm going to put a little bit of tone right here across this part of the wing so that you get a sense that there is more light hitting right on the back of this swan. And I think that before I do that, I'll even erase some of these preliminary marks so that there's more white space that will be left. I want there to be kind of white sunlight hitting the back of that. So I'm leaving a little bit of white on the top of that. Now, what about this bank in the back? I am going to use browns. Actually, let's go from lighter in the water and then move our way up from that. So what color for the water? I'm going to avoid bright, loud blues. And so I'll show you my palette here. I want this to sort of be a blue-gray. So I'm going to kind of get just got some kind of gunky old paint here on my palette. And I test that, and it's a little bit too bluish. I'm going to get a little bit of brown. See, I've got a little bit of brown on my brownish gray in here. I'm going to bring that in there. And then I'm going to dilute that. So I've got a water brush with water inside the handle. I'm going to squeeze it, get a drop of water in there. 2 came. Clean my brush off again. Now I mix into this, and I should have a much more dilute. Yep, I've got a much more dilute solution. Now, I am going to take this light value and put it all over the water. And this will initially be too light, but this establishes my lightest value in the water, and already the body of the swan has some spots that are darker than that. Now, I'm going to grab a little bit of this purple in here, mix it with some more of the gunk on the palette. And for this next thing, I'm going to want this water to be dry. If I were working outside, in watercolor tends to dry faster. Here I'm going to hit it with this hair dryer. There, that's drier. So I have a slightly darker purpley gray mixture in here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just make a few little horizontal marks that are suggesting kind of the ripples in the water. And my line gets thinner and thicker.
Oh, Jack, with this, it might help to, thank you.
Thank you. So these lines that I'm making, I'm going to actually make this a little bit darker so you can see what I'm doing. These lines in the water, they're coming along thin, and then I press harder, and then I let up. See how that makes that little eyelashed mark? Thin, press, lift. Thin, press, right? So here, when I'm in the water, I am going thin, press, and you know how you can kind of get, or I might press, and that kind of gives me it sort of more of a watery effect. Some here in the background. The ones in the background, I might make these ones skinnier and smaller.
Sorry.
Ah,
Our swan keeps swimming away.
yeah, that's right. Oh, look, there it goes. So I'm trying to do just, I've got a little bit of variation there in my water. I'm leaving some places closer to the body, a little bit lighter to be a kind of a hint of some reflection out there. I am going to give it a little bit of reflection of darker under the tail. And then there's this, there's a sort of interesting kind of reflection of the bank that is back here. And if you look at the bank there, you can see some of this really dark brown in the water there. I will put that in, but I'm first going to put in some sort of a little bit more of the rest of the bank. But let's think about what this bank is going to do. The bank, I want a lighter bottom edge where it's catching a little bit of the light, because the bank is coming down like this and then turning out, and then here's the water. And so this part that turns out, the sunlight that is beating down the sunlight is reflecting back to you more strongly off this little part that is sort of turned down out here. But this steep part of the bank is really dark. Then I've got grasses that are hanging out here on the top. And so as I look at the front of this, the front edge of this bank, I'm not going to have be a straight line. It's the bottom edges of some of these grasses. So if I have dark material that I'm putting in here, I'm going to be carving the bottom edge of these grasses. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to first give us the grass on top. Then we will carve in, test some greens here. And I'm going to give myself a, just sort of testing some greens. I can put in some warmer greens. See, I'm kind of doing this as sort of just a irregular scrubby mark, so that if any of those marks show up, they won't feel kind of mechanical. They'll feel a little bit more like they might be grassy. And then I can just get another color of green. Test this, yeah. And it's going to kind of come in there. And some places it's wetter, some places it's drier, so that means that some of this will kind of blend together and some of it won't. But that'll give me some nice variation out there. And in the back part of the grasses, I'm making these little kind of marks that are even smaller. My pencil is, my brush is just kind of dancing along here, kind of going like, look, there's kind of a little bit of grass happening. And I get something that doesn't feel mechanical. The bottom edge of it, I want to be, I can safely slop some extra green down here, because what I'm going to do is bring the dark of this bank up into that to kind of define and carve this edge. So I want a bank that will be darker in the middle of it, in this straight part, down part. And then it's going to have a little reflective, angly part at the bottom. So I'm just sort of making this part of this little bank mark a little bit kind of rough on the top edge, so because I don't want these brush strokes to really show through. Now here's the part I've been looking forward to, and this is a little bit of a risk, but it could really pay off. What I'm going to do is I've got this really dark color. This is not Bloodstone Genuine. This is yeah, Bloodstone Genuine. It's a very dark brown, almost black. I'm going to mix it with some Indathrone blue, which is a very dark blue. And really dark blue and really dark brown make black. A really dark color. I'm going to get a little bit more Bloodstone Genuine, a little bit of that color, test that, and look at how dark that is. See, everything else here has been just sort of a very light value. The minute I get this in there, the value range of this whole business is going to change. So here I go. I want my top edge of the grass to be, right here is this sort of the top edge of the grass. And I'm going to make these sort of marks that, you know, could be, you know, a little blade of grass kind of sticking down. So I'm doing this, I'm thinking about like the bottom edge of this grass. So I just sort of made a little mark along there that's rough, but it's really dark. Now I have my mud bank come down from that. I'm using a water brush here. So that means that as I paint, sometimes my brush starts to get a little bit more pale. That means that the top edge of this underneath where that grass is will be one of the darkest parts of it. You can see that kind of getting a little bit lighter. And I'm stroking down. I'm stroking down. So if any of my brush marks appear in this, you'll feel that there are these little kind of edges that come down. And I'm going to kind of bring that down into here. And I'm actually going to have that meet the top of my friend the swan. My brush is really running out of paint right now. So I'm going to accelerate that. I'm going to wipe off some of my paint because I'm going to want this to get paler. So I take my little rag again, and I'm going to go wipe, 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 wipe. There's much less. There's check this out. I've now got much less in here. And I'm going to leave some of these sort of lighter brown parts in here, but the edge of that bank. Some places I'm going to want, oh, okay. Now I'm going to do one thing. I'm now going to get that dark mixture of the Indathrone Blue and the Bloodstone Genuine. I really like those two colors because they just make something that is super dark. And now I've got some super dark paint on my brush one more time. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the reflection of the cut bank. The reflection of the cut bank. And so I'm going to come along here, and what I am going to do is make some horizontal, those little eyelash marks. If you're out watching the water itself, you can't copy a photograph exactly, but you can see that there is a little kind of a zone of darker. So don't be afraid of putting, you know, dark into your water. Then I'm going to take more of that color, and I'm going to use this. I'm going to have my hand be kind of making a sewing machine ... stipply mark as I'm kind of bringing these little lines up in here and kind of putting just a little bit of detail into this cut bank. Final thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some places where this bank is kind of receding a little bit more. So now I'm going to take some of that same color and I'm going to bring it into my swan. Here is your little ankle. Here is your eye and your beak. I'll even get that a little bit darker. I kind of feel like I'm losing that swan's head. So I'm going to also put more dark behind that swan's head. Right, so you see how that it just sort of feels like this value is too close to this value, and I want that head to pop a little bit more. So I'm going to mix up on my palette. I've got some perylene green. I'm going to mix that with some other colors on there. Perylene green makes nice dark greens. Test it out here before I get to, yeah, that'll work. And I'm going to just put that in where we're kind of adjacent to the head. I'm just going to spread some of that green, that same color, into some more of the grass so that it looks like it's not just a decision that is made right there next to the head. I'm going to do one final thing and then I'm done. I'm getting some more green in here on my brush. I want people to look at this stuff and think, oh, that's grass. So what I'm going to do is just give myself a few little kind of places where I'm drawing in some of the shadows between some of these grass blades. So just kind of carving some of these little shapes into a little bit more. Another way of doing that, actually, this would be kind of a fun thing to demonstrate, is, where is that white colored pencil when you need it? Aha, there it is. Come on out and play. I'm going to sharpen a little white colored pencil. And I'm going to test this. I'm going to draw some lines and just make sure, yep, that'll work great. So this will be fun in here. I'm going to draw in with this white pencil a few grass blades. Well, actually, first I need to get this dry. This, I need things to be really dry. Yeah, remember that. All right, this will be fun. I am going to take my white colored pencil and I'm going to make a few just light kind of grass marks. Let's zoom down on this. All right, you can see the white of my pencil here. And some of these, you know, so these marks really, I want them to kind of look like grass blades, but I don't want to. You have to be careful of overdoing it. So a little bit of that, and then I can take this brush with this darker paint on it, and I'm just I'm coming in there and kind of what's called dry brushing, where I'm kind of lightly skimming the paper. And it's really not taking on those very much at all. And so some of those little marks then remain behind. Yeah. So just some grassy bank. Got a big white marker here. Let's see if I can get just a little hint of some white on the back of this head here. Yep, that worked. Cute little swan. Oh, one more thing. There's always one more thing. I should stop saying one more thing, because I keep putting in one more thing after my one more thing. So I'll have to remember that. No more one more thing. So I'm going to try to make some of the water, the edge of this swan, a little bit darker. And now I'm going to stop. So that is a few thoughts about carving the shape. Then I put dark behind my swan to get that to pop off. The swans can have actually a lot of brown in them. Later on in the year, they will get they get their heads sort of stained with color by putting their heads down in the water. And I can get away with, you know, putting a decent amount of color into their feathers, as long as I've got something to compare it to that is dark. This swan feels bright, because the stuff behind it is dark. So let's stop this share. Hi, it's me. Let's join the Harbach family again, and love to hear your thoughts about the swans. Hey there.
That was absolutely brilliant. I loved it. That was one of the things I was having a hard time with. Our swans were in a cornfield, and just the contrast to how to do that. The shaping was super helpful. The contouring was super helpful. We're going to do this all the time. This is so much fun. I love this. And I put a big ad out. I see one of our homeschool friends, Jenny Miller, is on here. I thought maybe more would join too. I didn't go to the second page. So we're in the Charlotte Mason homeschool community. Great job. Oh my goodness.
Oh, should we do a little bit of sharing?
Yeah, she's sharing hers right now, but I didn't do watercolors because I didn't get my watercolor out, but I just
let me remove my spotlight here to make you bigger. Here you go. Okay, you're up.
So this is my before, which is
that one really does. You really have nice contours. That shape right behind the neck there.
It wasn't that exaggerated.
Wait, hold on. Make sure that your microphone is pointed right towards you. You want to be turn it so that right towards the middle.
Sorry, and I think the paper was probably blocking it too. I need to get one of those little microphones. But yeah, so it wasn't exactly, but I'll show my picture now. I feel like my after is better.
Oh, fun. Oh, what fun.
I can't wait to break up my watercolors and do more. Thank you so much. And Violet too was encouraged. It's hard. Her brother and sister in their 20s. It's hard when you grow up with all adults. Everybody seems to do everything so much better than you. So sometimes she gets discouraged, but we'll do more of this. So thank you so much.
Oh, absolutely. And Violet, I hope that cold also gets better. Sorry, you're a little bit under the weather, but
yeah.
You're starting to get better?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We'll continue that. Lots of fluid today and lots of naps, and you'll be out playing with the swans again soon. But Violet, yeah, this whole drawing thing, it's a skill that you develop just by putting in a bunch of pencil miles. And it's so easy when you're around a bunch of people who've been doing it for a long time. You look at them and you go like, oh, you're better than I am. And then in our head, we sort of think, oh, you must have always been that way. And I'll always be the way that I am. But if you rewind the tape on their drawings a little bit, they were recently in that stage. The more drawing you do, the better and better and better it gets. Right. So Charlotte Mason was a real believer in the importance of keeping journals, and regularly had her students out drawing. And it's over in England, they've got a bunch of the journals of Charlotte Mason's students, and you look at them and you kind of like what was in the water there in Ambleside where they were doing their stuff, like, because they're all artists. Well, what it was is that all of her students were just drawing on a regular basis, and because of that, we now look at them and go like, oh my gosh, they're all artists, because you become what you do. Right?
Yeah. And I have like drawing flowers a lot, and here's one of my pictures.
Oh, great. Hold on. I'm going to keep that up. I'm going to remove my spotlight. Oh, Violet. Oh, this is really fun. Violet, I really also sort of like the way you're kind of, you're showing the different angles on the base of that urn. Those sorts of angles are challenging to do. And not only am I sort of seeing the sort of the drape of the flowers and the leaves, but you're also showing some interesting structure on the basis of that. This is really fun. Was this done from your imagination or from life?
This pot right here, I copied it because my sister gave me a pot that had fake flowers in it, and I put it on top of my dresser, and I copied this bit and this bit. But then I like drawing roses, and I kind of copied the hangover because on the bookshelf over there we have some hangover plants too.
Oh, Violet, I love it. I really want to encourage you, this is exactly the right track. Just the more you do, the more you'll see that your brain will grow in this specific way. That's exciting.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Violet, do you like going out and watching the swans?
Well, yeah, we went out, but I was like finishing being sick because I was like having from we were having taco soup, and then it was making me feel bad, and so Harry got it when we were supposed to go to co-op, and so we were fine, but Harry was sick.
Basically, we've had virus after virus for the last 2 months, so our immune systems are getting all revved up after COVID and being secluded for so long. We're catching everything this spring.
Yeah.
But we can still go out in our car and we can still go tasting.
Yeah, at our family, if we catch a cold, we share it. We pass it around the family, and we're like, oh, who's up next? But thank you so much for being with us. Now, are there other people, Amy, in your Charlotte Mason co-op group who you see on the call today?
I see the Millers are here, and I'm not sure if we know Jack or not. Or I'm not sure. I'm trying to look for other. Eve Miller is here, and I think just the Miller family. I might be. Oh, and Laura Mercon is here, so that means her little guy is watching. A little guy, sorry,
Right.
You're a big guy.
And does anybody in your group want to share a drawing?
The Millers were, oh my word, gorgeous. Here.
Would you feel comfortable sharing that again? All right, hold on. I'm going to add you to the spotlight. All right, I'm going to make our spotlight small to make this big. Remove this. I'm going to remove this. Oh, this really pops, right? And it really feels like a white swan, even though there's that much color on it, because you have darkened that background. And you also, I'm noticing that you're making really careful observations of the contours of this. Oh, we can't quite hear what you're saying because of, I think it might be blocking the microphone.
Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you so much for sharing this. Also, I want to notice that your proportions on the swan are very well observed. The length of the neck, the depth of the body. I'm guessing that you've been putting in some pencil miles on your journaling or drawing.
Yeah.
It shows your and also the line variation. Look at the line under the chest of this, where you kind of get that little indentation in the front of the body. The line goes from lighter to darker. It suggests volume. It suggests the shadow that would be cast in that area, as well as just making it for a more interesting line. That line variation like that is a really good strategy. So I want to encourage you to do more and more of this kind of drawing. This is every drawing is practice for the next one. This is really exciting to see. That length of the neck, the proportions of the head, the body proportions, very, very well observed.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's really fun to see. Does anybody else have a swan moment that you wanted to share with us? we'll start with the swans and then see what is sort of generally in other people's sketchbook. Let's join Susan. Hey there, Susan. Great to have you with us. Let's see. We need to make you able to.
I was gonna say I would use sign language, but I don't know sign language. But yeah, so I got a little too bogged down in the first swan to actually start seeing the second swan. But yeah, a lot of fun with this. I was getting very delicate, very light shading on the swan, and then I put not even that dark of a background on. All the shade disappeared, so that I had to come right back in with more shading and get some more. Because I noticed that in the photo, the color of the water that we see behind it was very, very light, because there's a lot of light reflecting off it, and so the darkest, even though the shadows on the swan in the photo were very faint because the lighting was not very bright or very direct, I noticed that even then the darkest parts of the swan were darker than the water that was behind it. So I could have gone the route of darkening the water to make the swan pop, but I was trying to see if I could get the shadows to be very delicate, but also darker than the background. So all kind of merged together in the end, but it was definitely an interesting experiment to try. So
that's fun. And I like that you left those bright whites on the cheek and the back and the wings and the base of the tail. Those the contrast with those really pops, doesn't it? Because of the value of the stuff around.
And even with having the background be not very dark, it's enough to really like say, oh yeah, this is not just a drawing, this is a white animal.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, so it's pretty fun.
Susan, thank you so much for sharing that. All right. I'm going to bounce over to my gallery view. Does anybody else have either a swan moment in your journal or just another journal page moment of your nature journaling that you wanted to share? All right. Let's join Jack. Good to see you. I'm going to spotlight you. How have you been doing, Jack? Oh, sorry, my bad. Now, don't worry, it's not you, it's me. I'm going to remove your spotlight, and now I see you. And for some reason, when I remove your spotlight, okay, then.
Yeah.
Now we're going to spotlight you again. There we are.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing really well.
I got this. Is this from Africa?
That is.
That's so cool.
So that was a Maasai woman gave that to me in actually when I was in Kenya.
Wow.
I saw some Maasai women across a river and went over there and spent some time talking with them and bought that rhinoceros. I remember when I was talking about going to Kenya before that trip, and I had mentioned that like I get to see a rhinoceros, and I remember at that point you went, and so when I saw the rhinoceros, I remembered you going, right, and so I got that like this rhinoceros is for Jack.
Yeah, thank you. Is this wood, ebony?
Yes.
Ebony wood?
Yeah. Yes, it is. There's a what is? I had the name of the tree, but yes.
Yeah, and then this is really cool. A couple weeks ago, we went golfing, and my brother found this in the grass off the green. We haven't figured out. We washed it in vinegar. We haven't figured out what animal it's from. But this jawbone with all the teeth, it's got to be some predator because these teeth are long.
Oh, that's fantastic. All right. Oh. Hold on. Let me grab a reference skull for you. And so what we're going to do is we're going to identify this skull. You're going to identify the skull because I'm going to put out 3 things for you to compare. Actually, 4, right? So do you, what are a few species that you know are in your area?
Fox, raccoon. Those two things popped up in my mind
Okay,
first.
are there also possums in your area?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to bring out several different skulls that will all include things that are in your area, and we're gonna ID this. Oh, this is gonna be cool. Hold on a second. All right, here we go. Now. Still working here. All right. That is a really cool find. All right, are you ready?
Yeah.
Let's go to the thrill cam here. And so for friends at home, Jack's gonna be holding up his piece, and we're gonna be comparing that with 4 mandibles of 4 different critters that live in the area. All right, and here we are. Aha. Number 1. All right, this one here, all right, I am seeing big teeth in front, and then does this look, so this is skull number 1. This is kind of cool. This one actually had a massive infection in its jaw here. You can see this kind of rough, irregular area here. That was from a big infection that this animal had, and it survived it.
Wow. Yeah,
So
I'm thinking that's not it, because the whatever piece that your left hand is on right now, that flat piece, that's really big. And mine is definitely a lot smaller than that. And I also noticed if you look at it like this, mine is more of a V shape. Yours, I feel like, is also a V shape, but more tight. Mine's a little bit more open.
So what we've just done is we have eliminated the possum from the possibilities. All right, so this is not a possum. So this is a possum skull here. Something that's kind of fun about the possum is look at the size of that brain case. Just tiny little brain. Tiny little brain. Now, let's try number 2. How is this one similar to or different? Here's side view, and when you want to get the top, when you want me to turn it, let me know.
Yeah, it's definitely got those 2 big teeth in the front. It's got, are those teeth in between the big teeth? Those little tiny things? Because
These
mine have
ones
those
here?
too.
Yeah.
Little tiny things. In between the big teeth. The 2 front teeth, the long ones.
Oh, oh yes, right there.
Yeah.
Yep. So
I
these
feel
are
like
called
mine is. I feel like mine is still smaller than that. They do have a little bit more similar overhead view, like this. But still, I feel like a little bit more tight than mine. Mine's more wider.
Yeah. Okay. So we have just now. Is this one a smarter critter
Yeah.
than the possum? Yep. This is a raccoon. So we've taken our raccoon off the list, or probably not that. Here is another one.
Well, I'm thinking it's that.
You like that?
Yeah. It's got
Okay.
about the
Well,
same size, whatever this thing is here, that attaches, and more wider V overhead. Same amount of teeth. I see 3 teeth on each side. Yeah. And
Okay,
then
so
big front teeth.
and so then definitely not this one.
Yeah.
All right. So here, if it's definitely not this one, we have eliminated the fox. And that leaves the cat.
The cat.
Yes.
Huh.
So cat or bobcat?
Wow.
Do you have
A cat.
bobcats in your area?
Yeah, I think we do. I think we actually saw one on a trail when we were hiking one time.
All
They
right.
do. I'm pretty sure they do live in our area, so that could be a bobcat or some. I feel like I forget what golf course we were at, but I know they have cats. No, we were at White Clay Creek. Pilgrims has the cats. But yeah, I think you're right. This cat. That's
Right.
crazy. I
And
thought it was a fox.
and so one way to tell cat is the fox, when we're with the fox, in the back of the skull here, it has these chewing teeth, these molars back here that are used for noshing on plant material. It also then has, see this vertical tooth right here?
Mhm.
That's called a carnassial tooth, and it's used for cutting meat.
Mm.
On the cat skull, if you look, are these flat molars or are these vertical blades?
Vertical blades.
Yeah. So the cat skull is all set up for slicing meat.
Mhm.
And so a larger one is a bobcat, a smaller one will be a house cat, or potentially a baby bobcat.
Yeah, this
That
was
is really cool.
yeah. And then I also have another one for you. I think they
Oh.
identified this one as a raccoon, but here we have the skull. This was we actually found this in our yard, and we have a huge forsythia bush on the side of our yard, and this was just in there. Like some animal had eaten it or something. It was really dirty. We cleaned it up a little bit more on vinegar and a different solution. But this is crazy.
That is great. Yep. And look at that. Yep. We both got raccoons in our hands.
Mhm.
So here's my raccoon skull. You see that big brain. Possum, on the other hand, little tiny
Tiny.
brain. The fox is doing pretty well in the brain department, but I still think this one is winning out.
Mhm.
That's great. Isn't it fun to make a discovery like that?
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. That's cool. Oh, you want to? Let me show you something else. I'm going to just run away from the table here for just a second. I'll be back in just a moment. All right. Now, this little one
Whoa.
is a cast of the saber-toothed tiger skull that was found at the La Brea tar pits here in California.
Wow.
And
It's huge.
it is jumbo. It is crazy big. But look at this. This is so cool. You're seeing in this lower jaw here the same kind of vertical slicer meat cutter teeth, so no chewing teeth. It's lost one of the teeth, so we have 3 teeth in this jaw and 2 teeth in this back here in these molars. But the we have these sort of sharp-edged meat cutters, just like the skull that you were holding there.
Yeah. That's crazy. So they
Isn't that
found that
fun?
like, in tar pits, in the tar pits of
Yeah.
California.
So yeah, there's this place in Southern California where there still are these places where tar comes up to the surface and is just there are these sort of bubbling pits of sticky petroleum tar. And so back in the day, mastodons and dire wolves and saber-toothed tigers and all of these Pleistocene rock stars were walking around there, and if they kind of got into these pits, they couldn't, it was sticky and they couldn't get themselves out. And so then they sink down, and this environment preserved the bones beautifully. So they've just got tons of skeletons of all these different sorts of things. And sometimes, you know, animals would be in there to get stuck and die, and then condors would come down and land on them. And then the condor would get its wings stuck in the, and so they get like then condor skeletons, and like there's all of these amazing skeletons. So should you get yourself down to Southern California, forget that Disneyland stuff. There's the La Brea tar pits, and they've got this museum where they've got articulated skeletons of all these materials, that the material that they brought out of there. It is so good. It is so cool.
Does the whatever the like the material of the tar, does that like keep it intact? Because that skull, that casting looked really intact. I mean, I know it's just a casting, but everything was there.
Yes, yeah. So all the skulls, they're just like somebody like, I'm going to clean this. And they're kind of stained brown, but they're like perfectly stained because they haven't been crushed by all this other sort of stuff. It is, so it's like the perfect depositional environment. It is hard to get fossils. It's really hard to get fossils. But in these tar pits, fossils like a boss. Yeah, it's really fun. So so cool. You know, I'm actually glad that some things went extinct.
Yeah.
That's
Man,
fun.
that tooth is like a foot long. Wow.
Isn't that nuts? Yeah, these giant incisors. So the sharp pokey teeth on here, right? Let's just take that and turn it into something for working with a mastodon.
That's so cool.
Yeah, that's fun. Thank you so much for showing me your skull. That's a great find. Has your journaling been going well?
Yeah. I've been doing a lot of I've been loving the past 2 colored pencil classes. And I did a bunch of sketches with this. This is a Bittern in Flight.
Oh, Matthew Daughter would love to see that. Are you going to submit that for the bird set?
I don't know.
I would encourage you to. That's a really cool bird. That's a yeah. The Picassos. Vea's going to drop the link in there. I want to, if you feel like it, I want to encourage you to submit that on to the Bird Casso event that Audubon was doing.
Yeah.
Vea just put it in there. That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. It's great to see you. I saw that Vea had her hand up a moment ago, and also that Shannon does. Vea.
I want to make sure that Shannon gets to go first, just because it's been so long since we've gotten to see her share.
Oh, great. All right. You're always looking out for everybody else, but we're not going to forget you. All right. Hey, Shannon, you can now unmute, and if you turn on your camera, then I'll be able to pin you up here with us. Here we are.
Working. Oh yes, there, it's working.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. It feels like a long time with your trip and all the wonderful people you've had on lately. It's just been so inspiring. You know, being the one who loves the skulls too, I'll just throw up, there's my possum skull.
Oh, nice, nice. Little bitty brain case.
Yep, yep. And then
They're scavengers.
oh, hello, hello, the crow. You can see him.
Oh,
I think it was a
wow.
crow anyway.
Yep.
So found skulls mostly.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's a lot of space in that mouth, and I know we've done the beaver before in some of your classes, and this is a model. It isn't a real beaver skull, but look at that space there where they bite the trees, and then where their little teeth are way over there.
Yes, and something that's really cool about those teeth that are coming out in the front. So those teeth, there's orange on one surface and not on the other, and they've got this strong orange enamel on the front that is harder than the material in the back. And so that means as the teeth rub together, that hard part doesn't erode as fast, and that helps keep the tooth sharp. Because if it was all the same, it would all erode at the same speed as it was chewing on things. But instead, you've got these teeth that it's hard on one side, and so as that tooth wears down, that hard part will come out as that little knife edge. That is such a cool skull.
Yeah, I can't quite see. I sort of see that knife edge. Now, I always thought that the color of the beaver's teeth was due to the type of tree they like to chew, and that it stained their teeth. I mean, there may also be quite a hard covering on the front, as you've described. I've not really, you know, gone down that rabbit hole.
You'll see actually that same phenomenon going on all the rodent skulls. So just as another example, here is one moment. So here is again, so beaver with these hardened orange bits there. This is totally different diet. This is a porcupine.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Mm-hmm. And then the other crazy thing about these, this is really strange, is that so these rodent teeth, like our teeth, we've got our baby teeth, our milk teeth, and then we get this set of adult teeth, right? And then your teeth start growing. You get a cavity, you know, when you're 15, when you're older, you know, you're still gonna have that same thing. So for these critters, their teeth are wearing down, and so these teeth are constantly growing throughout their life and wearing down. And so if you kind of think of kind of what's going on behind the scenes here, this tooth.
Oh, wow. Oh my goodness.
That's what you see on the outside. But then this is growing up. And as it gets older, it continues to grow up. So if they only get soft food, then this tooth will grow up and back into their head. So they have to, if you've got a pet gerbil, you have to give it a nibble ball to kind of allow it to wear its teeth down. But those growing incisors are just beautiful, beautiful things, aren't they?
So, Jack, is that one that you took the tooth out of? Is that an actual skull and not a model? Yeah, yeah, but that is totally cool. Wow.
That's fun.
Yeah. So, and then I also just will show my swan. I'm always excited about skulls, though. So.
Let me remove my spotlight here. We should actually have a skull drawing class again.
Yeah, I love them.
All right. Oh, yeah. The color variation in this. So folks, look at kind of the dynamic lines and kind of color variation on the underside of this swan. It's so lively. And I also like the variation. Watercolor just does these cool things where it'll be heavier here and lighter here.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool.
It was, I couldn't, I'm in the middle of moving a lot of things around and I couldn't find my palette of your paints, Jack. So I had to grab, this was a Daniel Smith one. I didn't know it had a black in it. It apparently did. So the legs and the beak and so on were all kind of blue shades. But
great.
it worked. It did the trick. And then last couple of things, if they're actually handy, which they may not be, like they say, I've been moving a lot of things around. So, and I don't see them now. So I'll just say for another sharing time. But yeah, thank you for the class on the swans. I love swans. I mean, who doesn't? They're so beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, and I'm also noting some skulls that you love on the shelf, on the above your door frame there. Those sketches that you did. Could you bring those down for a second for us just to have a peek at?
Yeah, those are bear skulls.
That's cool.
There's one more. I may have shown these once before. These are in oil. I tinkered around with oil for a while, and one will never do it for me usually. I have to always just keep playing. So I did
love how you kind of you block in the planes on these.
That's the struggle, isn't it? So I did several versions of it using different combinations of colors and so on, just to, just to live into it for a bit.
Could I see that first one again?
Yeah.
I love how it just sort of goes into the background color, this wonderful sort of maroon velvet. That little highlight on there really.
Oh yeah, right. Right there.
That just shows our. I really get a sense of the shape and the structure and the play of light on it. What a delight!
I believe this color was just a regular burnt sienna. The entire project was done in burnt siennas. This one too, and. This one, though, I don't know. It looks like I might have ventured off on my own a bit.
Yeah.
And added a few other colors.
That's burnt sienna working for you. That's great. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah. Thank you for having a moment there. Thanks.
Absolutely. I am going to add Susan. Actually, first we're going to, let's bounce over to Avea, and then spotlight. Hold on a second. So Susan, we'll come back to you, and I'm going to minimize all of us so that there, you're big. Hi there, Avea.
Hey there, it's good to be here. I've been on a few different adventures, but the one I wanted to share is a kind of collecting I did of my own on Monday, except that instead of collecting skulls, I collect trash.
Oh.
So I finished up my page to honor Jack's birthday with the cleanup.
Oh, this makes me so happy. And this is so, and you were doing this cleanup in a neighborhood that is really an underserved community in the San Francisco Bay Area here, and you ended up doing it right next to a school. Is that right?
Yep. I'd been on my way because the place that I was originally going to go clean up was a bit further down this way, which is closer to the bay. But I was passing by the school and I saw this playground here, and I noticed that there was trash over on the grass. So I was like, oh, nope, nope, going over here instead, because that's where the kids are. And I didn't want the kids to be, you know, playing in a place that's all trashed because, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's not the school's fault. It's not the neighborhood's fault. It's San Francisco's fault for trashing this community so badly. And I'm only imagining that with the storms and the winds and everything like that, even more so, and the fact that this is like right near the base, so that means that the rest of the watershed kind of pours down into it. I'm guessing that a lot of things from the nearby highways and everything else kind of just gets blown or washed down here. And so I picked up the trash so that the kids would feel a little bit more cherished, even though I know that there'll probably be more of it just because of the weather being what it's like now. And then I went just across to this little area, and I didn't get very far because like 17 minutes and my bag was full.
Wow.
And so I'm gonna have to come back. I had to stop picking up the bottles and the cans and just go after the plastic because the plastic's the stuff that was breaking down and becoming discolored and will just get smaller and smaller. So I had to focus on the plastic. Sorry. And then I like to draw the weirdest trash that I find in a day.
I love that little highlight on that coil there.
Thank you. So yeah, this was the coil. Huge. I'm not sure what it was for. Some of us were making guesses earlier. So that's the weirdest trash. And then I drew some of the others. I started out drawing them a little bit more carefully with the blue pencil, or sorry, purple non-photo blue pencil. But then I decided to just go and do some blind contours or modified contours because the trash is always kind of melting, falling apart. And so it just made more sense to, especially this one wasn't even in a completely full form. It had been stomped on or possibly run over. And so it looked pretty much like that. It had shaky lines on them.
Where are the trash cans? Well, that's a really important question.
Yeah.
What happens if in what neighborhoods do we put trash cans in? In what neighborhoods do we not?
Yep.
Oh,
and then,
respect.
thank you. On my way home, I was sitting there with my trash bag because I couldn't find a trash can to leave it at. And the spider crawled out of my trash bag and onto me. And I saw movement and I'm like, what? Who's that? And then I saw a spider. I'm like, oh, aren't you cute? And I didn't want Spider Friend to get hurt. So I said, just temporarily go back into the trash bag so I don't accidentally crush you when I'm getting out. And then I was sitting on my front porch the next night drawing the trash and the spider came back out again.
Yeah. Oh,
you are.
Hello, little buddy.
Yeah, this is Striper the spider. Logan named the spider.
Striper. This is good. Oh, what a delight. What a delight. Hey, the next time you want to go out there, give me a call. I'll see if I can meet you at the playground. I'll bring my big gloves and some more bags, and we can have a trash party.
I would love that.
I would love to get trash with you.
Thank you. I could believe me. There's so, like, this community needs a lot of love. So if you join me, we'll make a dent at a time. We'll do what we can. Yeah, just wow. This community really needs that love. So thank you for that. I would really, really appreciate your company.
That'd be great. Thank you. That makes me really happy. Let's join Susan. Hey there.
Hey, oh, I hadn't realized I had not muted myself again. So, yeah, hey, yeah. So, thanks. I figured I'd show off some things. I do want to say, Avea, I love so much how you document the trash that you find in your journal, because you are like, more than anybody else, you are like always like finding new things to do with nature journaling and like things that I wouldn't have thought of putting in my nature journal. And so, you know, the last time I did a trash pickup, I showed some of the trash because I was thinking of, because I remembered you doing that. It's so cool. I love it. Yeah. That's awesome. And then you got your reward of a spider. I will say I've not been actually getting that much nature journaling.
Actually, I'm going to interrupt you for just a second.
I'm sorry.
I'm going to interrupt you for just a second. My girls are getting out of school early today. I need to go pick those rascals up. And then I will come back. Avea, is it possible for me to make you our meeting host?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I am going to, I'm going to disappear, so I'm not going to get to see this share, but I will be back in a little bit. But I can't leave those girls hanging out there. All right. Thank you so much for being here. Folks, I hope you had fun with looking at swans today. I want to send a special shout out to the Harbach family in Wisconsin for sharing their love of the swans that have migrated into the area. And to want to send a shout out to the Charlotte Mason homeschool group that you're teaming with. Thank you for being here, friends. Just stay curious, and let's go grab these books and go out into the world and play. I want to encourage you to try to inspire other people to do the same. This is kind of falling in love with the world like this. It motivates us to do things like Avea did, going out there and just doing a trash pickup, because we fall more deeply in love with this world, and we protect, we save, we take care, we nurture what we love. And so I think of the journaling as a way of falling in love with the world. Thank you all, and I will see you soon. So now I'm going to turn Avea into the host. Bam! I'm going to disappear, and it is really, really good to see you. So Avea, if you can make me go away, and then I will see you all in a bit.
Okay. Good to see you, Jack. See you soon. Let's here. We're gonna remove spotlight, and the floor is yours, Susan.
All right. Hey. Yeah. So I as I said, was that I've not actually managed to get out and do a whole lot of nature journaling lately because it's been cold. Not that one can't journal in the cold, but also just been maybe. But I did get a chance to get out and get out to one of my favorite, one of many favorite local preserves. This is a place where last year in May I found a cocoon on a tree branch that I determined was of a cecropia moth, and I got really excited.
Was that the journal page where you were jumping up and down excitedly?
Yes, it was. So I took that home. I determined later it never did emerge, and after some investigation, I found the emergence hole where it had already emerged. So I did actually dissect that cocoon. It's pretty cool. So I figured, though, that obviously there are cecropia moths in this place, and so I will go and look for more cocoons, and this is the time to do it before the leaves come in. So I looked, but as it turns out, I couldn't find any in that visit. But we'll keep checking. But in the meantime, I did find some cool things. So this is a really, really great place where we get a lot of like really beautiful spring ephemerals, beautiful flowers that come up that I haven't seen in a lot of other places. So the flowers were not up yet. I did find a little. This was all the snow had already melted down here, but this is kind of up on the escarpment. It's like almost 1,000 feet higher elevation, and there was still snow up there. But I noticed that in just some little pockets of areas that were sheltered from the snow, there were leaves coming up of these plants called sharp-lobed hepatica. And I couldn't figure out if they're new leaves that have just grown or if they're last year's leaves that didn't die for some reason. But I think they might be last year's, because I remember last spring seeing the new leaves coming up with the flowers and being very small and fuzzy. So I'll get back there shortly and see what it looks like then. But yeah, I caught a cool woodpecker. I tried Jack's tactic of watching it, saying out loud what the markings were, the production effects, and then after it had flown away, then I tried to sketch it, and so it came out pretty good. And then I was able to identify it as a red-bellied woodpecker, which doesn't look very red-bellied to me, but that's what it is. So yeah, so it's pretty cool little event there. Yeah, and then since then I've been working on doing some things that involve less drawing, but still some nature observation. So I'll put in a plug for some citizen science or community science. If anybody, wherever you are, if you've got like preserves or places where they are doing some science, you can probably find opportunities to sign up for like community science things that us here at the Albany Pine Bush in our area, we have they have a bunch of different things which you don't have to have any like scientific knowledge. They teach you what you need to know, and you can do some things that are really very not a huge amount of responsibility but have a big impact. So it's very cool. So I kind of may have signed up for all 7 of the community science things that they do throughout the year. So busy for a while. But so one of them is Frog Watch. I am now officially a certified frog watcher. So I had to learn to recognize the calls of all 10 species of frogs and toads that are local to my area. And so if I hear them calling, I can tell which one it is. And there's this website where you go out to a particular location, they want you to like revisit the same location over and over again throughout the year, and go in at night and listen for the sounds of frogs and toads calling and record which species you hear and how intense the sound is and a bunch of other metadata. So I did my first visit, to which the result was no species found. But that's okay, because negative data is still data, and that was in March when it was still pretty snowy and cold. I actually did hear some spring peepers elsewhere, but not there. But I'm also the big thing I'm working on. This is also kind of inspired by you, Ivea. I'm making myself a cheat sheet, which I'm keeping on. I'm in progress here, but it's a cheat sheet where I've made some notes on the sounds of all the different of the 10 species that I have to listen to, that I have to be able to identify. And some of them are really easy, some of them are a lot harder. So I want to have my cheat sheet out there so I can tell. So I'm trying to like transcribe like what does the sound like and everything, and then just some other data. And what I'd like to do is get a little sketch of each species in here. I'm not likely to see them at night, but I might see them during the day, and I have seen some of these species. So actually, I'm wondering if you have any thoughts, or if Jack or anyone else has any thoughts of, is there like a website like Bird Pixel, but it's like frogpixel.com or something, where there would be like, I mean, I've tried to use iNaturalist to find some photos of the various frogs and toads, but it's hard to find ones that show any kind of detail. But I'd like to like just something that I can use that's not copyrighted, that I can like get as a sketch reference photo of these sessions.
I'll have to take a look for some. The only one I really know of is California herps, but that's California. That's not New York. So that's not.
There might be some overlap, but I think it's a bit different. I do have this field guide, but it doesn't really have photos for most of it. Has illustrations, which I like in general, but I also don't want to just copy the illustration from the field guide. I'd like to sort of have my own field guide. So this has been really useful, but yeah, it sounds nice. So yeah, I'll see. There's lots of people interested.
You already used my go-to strategy of trying iNaturalist. That's
I'm gonna keep trying that as well, and hopefully I'll find more things. But I was wondering if there's any other ideas that you have. But yeah,
I don't know of any. Does anybody else happen to know of any like just good herp ID sites? I'm looking into the gallery view to see if anybody's waving at me.
There is a site where they have recordings of the sounds of a number of species that live in my area in the Northeast, which includes the 10 species that I have to actually know for this. So I've used that to listen to the recordings to be able to then like make notes on what the sounds are. But then it doesn't give me photos. So
also Sochi has a really good idea. You might remember Kate Chandler's friend Parker Gibbons, who also lives over there in the southeastern United States, and so he might have some resources over there, or pictures of his own, because he is also on Instagram. So either he'll know people, or he himself will have photos. If you'll give me a moment, I can get his Instagram information for you and put him there. And
Okay,
plus,
that'd be awesome.
always
Yeah.
page as well. So
Yeah, and I've seen Mary Christensen saying Seek, which is uses the same database as iNaturalist. So yeah, so I'm finding some images in there. Obviously, some of the species are a little less common, and also a lot of times you hear them and don't see them. So there's some identification, some observations of species on there, but it's just the sound, which is great. It's useful because I have to learn the sounds. But yeah. Oh, also, while I was out there, when I was doing my first official frog watch, and I was listening. I did not hear any of the frogs, but I did hear a woodcock, which was great. The woodcocks are back. They're not doing their courtship flights yet, but they do these really cool courtship flights. So hopefully, and that's also one of the community science projects that I'll be doing is monitoring them. So basically, you're gonna have to like go out on certain nights and like record and know how many woodcocks you hear and different things like that. So that's fun. Everyone should do community science. As long as you can count, you can do community science. It's great.
that's awesome. Major props to you for doing that, and because that's ongoing community science work that you'll be doing, which is a form, in my opinion, at least, of stewardship. So I think that's a wonderful way of doing stewardship. There's so many different ways. So props to you for doing what you're doing.
Okay. It's also lots of fun because you get to anyway, I'll let other folks jump in.
It is really, really good to see you, Susan. It's been a while, so it's great to see you back here, and we'd love to hear more about your adventures going forward too. The frog watcher, official frog watcher.
They don't give you a badge for that though.
We'll just have to make one.
I'll make one.
They'll be jealous. Well, thank you, Susan. And I see that we have Shannon and Holly, so I will, let's see, I think that Holly was first, but it looked like you fell offline. So I'm gonna bring on Holly and then Shannon, if that's agreeable to you all, because I want to make sure that neither of you have to go right away. So here is Holly, and I'm gonna lower her hand. Yeah. Are you able to unmute now?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. Hi. I have not been drawing much at all, but I saw all these kids doing wonderful stuff, and the skulls are so exciting. And I saw with Violet that she's doing this drawing, and I ordered a wonderful book for my grandchildren, and I thought she might be interested in getting it. It's by Jean McKay, who's involved with you all right there. And that's where I got the idea. And it has wonderful prompts and little examples of if I could share this, I think that might be interesting for Violet. And there's a place to put your name. It's your journal. It's your own journal with some pictures of how, like, some ways to draw seashells and all different kinds of things. I think it's wonderful for kids. So I wanted to share that, and then just my swan picture real quick. I'm terrible at watercolor. You're welcome, honey. So those are my swans, and I'm not too good at watercolor stuff. I just end up having to go in with ink to make it look a little bit more like grass. I can't get anything to work with the watercolor. But anyway, it was really fun. It was great to be with everybody, and that's all I have to share.
Thank you so much for sharing that resource for Amy and Violet. And I think that what you were doing with the pen, adding, because you added in ink to the grasses, there's no one right way to do things. There's so many right ways of doing things, and so that way works just fine. Like whatever you can use to punch in the dark values, and it looks like you were really successful with that. So
thanks. Okay, thank you.
Good to see you, Holly.
Bye.
And I see Shannon's hand, so I'm going to bring you on, Shannon. And then let's see here. I put, let's see here. Are you able to unmute?
Yes.
Oh, there you are. Excellent.
There.
Cool.
So I was actually kind of hoping Jack would be back because I forgot to add something when he was talking about the teeth and all that cool stuff about the skeleton. And I guess I'll go ahead and just talk about that now. And maybe you'll share it with him, Abia. That would be really great.
No problem.
Because the interesting thing that I noticed just today when I pulled the possum off of the shelf, I happened to look at the teeth inside and how they're shaped. And if you can see that, they
We
have
can't
like
see
the
it.
two, you can't see it?
No, oops, I should be muted. Hold on.
Can you see it? Am
No,
I
we
still on?
We can see and hear you. We're looking at the bottom jaw.
Yes.
Yep.
And those teeth in the back that have points on both sides. Can you see that?
I think so. I'm not very good at teeth, but yeah, I'm seeing other folks nodding. So
So these are the teeth right here.
Yep.
Back teeth. And they point out in both directions. So the inside of the points point towards the inside of the mouth, and the outside of the points point to the outside of the mouth out there. I'm not very nimble with my fingers, but whatever. If people can see that the teeth, the points on the teeth, that there are two rows, an inside row and an outside row, and that those teeth, the inside row points towards the inside and the outside row points towards the outside. If you can see that, then I'm going to go on with the other interesting thing that I wanted to share, which is that I've been in the middle of studying about woodworking and learning about all of the various tools that are involved if you're going to do carving or any kind of woodworking. So one of the things I learned about were the two saws that we're all familiar with, the crosscut and the we're so familiar with them that I can't remember the name. The rip saw saws the wood down the middle of the grain, and the crosscut saws across. So what I learned is that on the crosscut saw, the teeth of the saw are double-sided and they curve out, just like the teeth of that possum. So that's one reason why I wanted to share this when Jack was on, because I can imagine he would have lots of things to say about all of that. So it might not be really, exciting without him to, flesh it out. But anyway, for me, that was something I just noticed today and was like really, really fascinated by. And of course, it makes sense that animals, that they're ripping and then grinding with their teeth, that they might want their teeth to have that same shape. And of course, what do we humans do anyway? We mimic the natural world with everything that we've done. All of our mechanics really has come out of understanding the body and how it works, all the ball joints and all the different things having to do with mechanics. Comes from the fact that we learned our body so well, how it works and so on, and then we could apply that to creating tools for ourselves. So it's not surprising that we learned about teeth and maybe decided, oh yeah, maybe that'll work well if I make this thing that will cut wood in this particular way if it looks like those animal teeth. So that was the one thing. I'm sorry he's not here for that. So please share that. Maybe he'll want to hear more later. And then along the line of the skulls, since he was looking at the bear skulls, this was an ink vent. My two sisters and I do the ink vent in December. Heather and Maeve are both, often on the with Jack as well. So this is the ram with the curly horns in its skull. I have the skull and I painted it for the ink vent, and just was sharing that. My sister also did the ram with the curly horn, and hers is really cool where she overlaid it then with a pin and really captured the movement, the curvedness and so on. She's probably not still on, but if she was, I wish she would show it. And then there's always the other problem of being able to find our work when we do want to show it. And then the last thing for now with, oh shoot, names. I'm so bad with names. Hold on. Oh Shoot. Well, anyway, the mathematician in our group.
Susan.
Susan. So this is for you, Susan. This is the Song of Pi, and I think everybody knows that Pi, the Pi Week or Pi Day or something was last month or so. I'm pretty sure. Let me see if I can get that to go away. Yeah. And so this is how I taught Pi to my, I believe they were 7th graders at the time. So this was set to the music from Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Back then I could sing. I cannot sing anymore. So you imagine in your minds how this might be. Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a number that I've heard of known as the ratio pi. Someday you'll have some land to fence and need to know the circumference around it. You'll take the little number pi and times it by 2 radii, and there you'll have found it. Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land full of numbers, endlessly counting pi. So, Susan, I thought you might enjoy that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Thank you. That made my day.
Oh, good, yeah.
And my cat's day, because
Oh, of course.
you know.
And Susan, here, I just want to hold this up for you. Can you read this?
Ooh,
I look
I
at
have
it.
read that book. Yes, it's great. I love it.
Yeah, this is a really, really understandable way to approach the entire history and applications of pi. So anyway, that's from way before, Jack left for Tanzania, in that one study that we were all in. So
That's awesome. Thank you.
it's been hanging around here since then to share.
That's really cool. That's awesome.
Yeah. Okay,
I
so
would-
that's all for now. And thank you, Ibea, for bringing me back on. And don't forget to tell Jack about that great awareness that I had today about the teeth of the possum and the cross-cut saw.
That's
We won't forget. We'll make sure that he not only finds out, but that he watches this part so that he can see.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, because it's still on recording. Good. Okay.
Who's the author of that book that you just held up?
Oh, Mario Livio.
Mario Livio.
Yeah.
That's how it's
And I can
pronounced.
say I've read that book. It's really excellent. It goes into a lot of history of this, and
Oh, yeah,
also
it's-
goes into some, like, I think he talks about, like, there's some myths, like people talk about the golden ratio as like being the most beautiful number, and having, and it showing up in all these Renaissance paintings and things, which is actually a little bit dodgy, and he explains why, and it's like it's really interesting.
Mhm.
But also he kind of goes into like some, I think he approaches it with a good amount of skepticism, which makes the whole thing even more interesting.
Yes, well, not to denigrate anything about the golden ratio, but I also just completed a couple of courses on the golden ratio. This is not a picture from that, but it was all created, with your compass and mainly the compass and your ruler. And this is not the right book. This one was at one point I, on my own, tried to get the planetary circuit of Venus, because it creates the 5-pointed star, and it's quite complicated to actually draw that using those tools. So I basically started with a freehand, I started with the compass, and then I just gave it up and just started scribbling in, trying to get the 5-pointed star in the Venus's orbit. And so it looks pretty scribbly, but the rest of this book that I have right here is all that kind of drawing, how to create these various shapes and understand the golden mean. And I have to tell you, it's pretty shockingly astounding if you really dig into it. So I might be able to find the other book that has all that in it, but who knows when. So thank you, Van. Good luck, Susan. And I'm going to stay on and see what everybody else has to say as well. But anyway, thanks, Van.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And so This has been a wonderful share today. It's been fun seeing everything people have got to share. So I know that that Violet had wanted to share something that she had found, and I want to make sure, was there anybody else who had wanted to share anything? I'm checking out the screen to make sure I don't forget anybody.
I was going to offer earlier, since I hadn't unmuted, when Jack was showing off his skull that we've determined was a cat skull, that if anyone would like to see it, have a look inside the mouth of a live cat, I might be able to get Cricket to open his mouth for us for just a moment. I don't know if that would be useful or not.
We could all if you want to do that for a quick moment, let's do
we'll see if he puts that. I don't know how useful it's going to be, but if you want to have a look and compare the teeth,
yeah.
We'll see. Well, he may not cooperate, but we'll see.
And one thing we can do too is I think that we might someday have to have another house cat workshop, but
yes,
it's okay too if Cricket doesn't want to. It's okay, we can respect it. But thank you for the offer.
It's worth a try, but
always worth a try.
He's usually very happy to open his mouth and bite things, but not when I want him to.
Well, thank you, and thank you, Cricket, too. So I'm going to let Violet share, and then I saw that Holly was holding up something too for Jack. So I'll spotlight Violet. Go ahead.
Yeah, we were down by the beach with my dad and me. I found this jawbone. And I was looking while everybody was showing their things. I saw that it had like a little tube that went down a little. And it kind of has this. I was thinking it went like this, but Mom was saying perhaps it went like this. But we don't know if it's this way or this way.
You might know. I thought they showed this kind of on the outside. This is also where on the inside the nerves go through. I don't know if you can see. Look at the dentist and they put the injection in. They got all the nerves at once. So we don't know what it belongs to, but we live less than a mile away from Lake Michigan. And so we just found out, so it's probably pretty water beaten. Then show the other thing.
I found a crayfish claw a while ago.
Oh, fun.
My cousin also found one like last year when we were looking, and I showed it to Harry because he's writing a novel right now that has crayfish in it.
But then what's the last one? Then we found this bone.
Yep, my dad. I found this bone that I showed my dad, and it reminded him from on the farm because there's a cabinet that he had at the farm, and he had a key that would go on it, and the key was on one of these kind of bones, and it's one of a soup bone.
Yeah, I think this is a soup bone.
That's what it is.
Yeah. Oh, okay, that made it into the lake.
This
We find all sorts of interesting things on the shores of Lake Michigan.
Yeah.
This is so much fun to see your collection that you found of these bones, and especially that jawbone. I love that you're considering which way it would fit on the face. And
yeah, it was quite interesting of how they did it. And you can also see all the holes down here. It goes almost all the way down to here.
So cool. I'd heard from somebody at one point. I was out one day trying to draw horses, and my friend had said that the jaw will almost always connect back to where the ear is on most creatures, because the ear is always either very close, or else sometimes you get specialized and you get a second hole that kind of goes just slightly away from the jawbone. But the jaw will almost always be close to the ear, or at least where it ends. So that might be kind of fun to explore and see how applicable that is. If that keeps showing up as a pattern in nature for you.
Thank you so much. What a generous group you all are for sharing so much. I'm just blown away. This was so much fun. Thank you so much for letting us be a part of this today. We'll definitely visit back again.
We're really, really happy to have you. And thank you for having us focus on the swans today. And especially because now we get to be excited about you having fun with those swans when you get to see them next out in the wild. So we'll be thinking of you when we draw the swans. it has been really lovely meeting you and having you with us. And I'm going to go to the gallery view now. Is there anybody else who? Oh, and Jack is back. Hello, Jack. Here,
Hey, everybody.
Here's the power back to you.
Oh, thank you, and thank you for helping manage the room, keep us safe. I'm just grateful to everybody for coming, and thank you so much. Oh, it looks like we've got a hand here. I don't have my glasses on, they're in my car, so I'm going to use these other pair. Test the eyeballs. Let's come right over here.
Hi.
Hey there.
Hi. I already actually shared, but I wanted to just send the funny card to you via this is you and this is us in the class following you, hoping that someday we'll get to have a rainbow color too.
Oh, I would put a lot more colors into those all those views back there.
Maybe so.
That's
and then,
really.
And then
oh,
and there's happy birthday. So that's on the film for you.
thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.
That's wonderful.
Have a good day. Happy birthday.
But hold on a second. I'm going to make my co-host again. And yes, thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
See, how do we do this?
Anne Chadwick from Point Blue Conservation Science, everybody. And it's great to see you.
Great to see you too. Hello, everybody. What a fun session. We're still going. We've been geeking out on skulls and teeth and how things attach and how they chew. So I thought I would share some sketches I've done from Tanzania, and they are of this crazy hippo. And sketching this way, and these are from my photographs, makes you realize just how crazy this skull and jaw and how everything attaches. And here are ears way up here and this jaw coming down here, and then you think, all right, those are teeth, right? But then you look inside when they yawn or display, and that's what they chew with, I believe, the molars and such. And these are more for fighting, right, Jack?
Yeah, I think that's right.
The ones in the front, and they seem to kind of go every which way and come out of every which place. And so anyway, it was really fun.
This is really fun. This also looks like it was fun to do. Like you got lost and just into some sort of a flow state with these ripples and bumps in the skin.
Definitely. Like I've never tried to draw, draped clothing or draperies or anything, but this is kind of what it must be like.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had fun with that. But you want to talk about crazy skulls and teeth and oh, what a weird animal.
Yep. And the cool little, just that highlight on that lower lip, that one that's looking towards us, doesn't that just sort of help make the shape?
Yeah.
This is really fun.
Just be glad it's not smell-o-vision, because they are pretty stinky. You don't want to be downwind.
Yeah, there were some whiffs that we got that could really clear a room.
Yeah. Ivea's got a skull. Picture of a skull.
Just a hippo skull for you, so that we can see the inside of your drawing.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool.
Oh, that is really fun. How bizarre.
Yeah, and look at those teeth going every which way. That's just nuts. Very cool.
Thank you so much for sharing those. And to be able to get all those all of those things are kind of moving around so fast when we're out there, and be able to kind of after the fact also continue to kind of go deeper with these photographs. I think that's a really great use of photographs. So folks, what some people do is they'll just take photographs and journal later, and I don't recommend doing that. What Anne is doing is she journaled and then she's still journaling and using those. Some things are from photographic reference, some things are from life. This is fun.
So here were the hippos. This is from life, not quite as accurate, but it was so fun because here are hippos in the river, and they're just mostly could look like rocks or bumps or whatever. And then you draw one with its mouth open and you say, oh, those must be all hippos. And here's a couple with just a little bit of detail, but mostly you just see them barely up out of the water. So
and folks, notice how some of the ones in the foreground have a little bit more detail, unless as you go into the background. That's another thing that kind of helps give this that depth. There's that cool palm tree that was right at that corner. I know this corner of the river.
right. I need to put in a bunch of weaver's nests too, right, Jack?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. And make the water really icky brown color.
But other places was reflecting the sky.
Well, yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Oh, that's fun. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's bring Jen in on the conversation here. Jen, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, thanks for inviting me. There was a young scientist that was asking a question about trying to see which side of the mandible is which. So I thought this coyote skull might help illustrate that. One of the ways you could look is at this indented area, which is on the lateral outside side, called the ramus. And you can also look for these little divots called the mental foramen. I think that's more of a carnivore thing, not sure. But, and then you can also look, you might have some splinting here since yours was broken also. And do cell phone pictures typically show up on here?
We can try.
1 second.
These are cool. You obviously kind of know a lot about these beasties.
Mm-hmm.
And you've gone through the training for vet school. Is that right?
Yes, I just applied for my license.
That's congratulations. Oh, and I like the bat cup in the background.
Oh, thanks. Good eye amongst the mess. And then I also like to get beach trash and make Christmas ornaments out of them. So this one was like a little chick shovel thing. The shells.
Oh my gosh.
And then
that's next level.
I only have a few pictures. This was like a little fishing line that I put like glitter on and add stuff. Try to not add plastic.
Vea, are you getting this? Christmas presents from our trash. Oh, love it.
I wish I had more pictures of them. Those were the only I could find.
Well, thank you so much for sharing those strategies on how to kind of make sense of which side of the jaw you have.
Thank you for
So
letting me.
what is the function of these little holes?
Oh, actually, I almost forgot to show you. This is where some cranial nerves come in, so that help innervate some things. I forget which ones come in there, but you have like 12 cranial nerves that come out of your skull. And this one I actually cut in an anatomy class. This is a sagittal crest, which will be really, I was worried this was a dog skull, but because it's so sharp and pointed, carnivores will get really pointy sagittal crests from the chewing muscles up here. Pointing on it, but I've opened it and you can see all these little holes, my inky pen, where cranial nerves come in. So that will help you like move the muscles on your face or smell. This is actually it's called the cribriform plate, which is where you smell from, and it's pretty cool if you look at like so look, this is the little coyote brain, so it's about this big. But if you'll look at a dog or a coyote, brain, you'll see the part that fits there that helps with smell. And if you compare it to a human brain, it's really cool to see the difference. The human brain's like this, and the dog's brain will be like this at that part. So they can smell so much better than us.
Oh, wow. So there's a larger section of the brain that's devoted to the smell.
It kind of comes off of it.
Wow.
The olfactory
So
nerve.
if you were looking at a human brain, could you point to the part of that that is smelly?
Mm-hmm.
Gonna bring out little friend.
That's a normal question, by the way. Happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. So do we want to open it up?
No, that's perfect. Those two little tiny things at the top, the yellow things. So those are your olfactory bulbs. I'll have two of them. No, if you're able to pull up the dog's one. They're so tiny though. So they just fit into little tiny holes, I'm guessing, in a human skull. But this dog's one is about, a coyote, it's about an inch big, inch long. I feel like the dogs are even bigger, but all these little holes are where they come through. These things are where they come through on the side.
Oh, cool.
And there's where your nerve that helps with hearing is. That's the only one that comes outside of the skull. Outside of the.
Hey, Jen, I'm thinking, because you've kind of done a deep dive in this stuff, when we do a skull class, could we do some team geeking out?
I would love to geek out.
Oh, wouldn't that be fun? Do y'all want to learn some skull anatomy and structure with Jen?
That'd be great, because I don't typically see dog skulls anymore in practice. So
All right. Yeah. There's a bunch of really clear affirmatives. So what let's talk off the show and figure out what would be a good time for kind of skull sleuthing.
Okay, that sounds
it'd be fun
fun
to kind of compare a bunch of skulls and sort of think about structure and function and kind of making sense of a bunch of the sort of the holes and the parts and kind of what goes where and how things work. That would be a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Sounds
Excellent.
great.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Oh. There we go. No. Hello.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's a lot of power with that unmute function.
Well, yeah. It's just you're able to take away people's vocal cords just like that.
I've got one more weird thing behind me. My cousin played for the Gators, and apparently they all trap them and sell them. So this probably wasn't acquired very. I don't know. I worry how it was acquired because it's a baby. But my cousin said, "I know you love animals, so here's a baby one's head." It's a little alligator. I imagine not that old.
Oh, that is fun.
Look at those teeth.
Yeah.
They're just a baby, and these are like, if I could easily cut myself on those.
Yeah.
An accident.
Those are impressive. Ann Chadwick and I just got back from Tanzania, and we're seeing some of these Nile crocodiles. Some of them were big.
They're scary. They'll catch you.
Yeah.
Don't wash your hands in those waters.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, more than 5 meters long, and this one can live to 100 years. That's a lot of crocodile for your money. So with that, there's more to come, dear friends. We're just getting started here. Thank you all for being here, and also want to send a shout out to my co-host Evea, the mad botanist, to the Harbach family for joining us. Bring you guys on, boom, and everybody. Thank you all for being here, and we look forward to playing with you again soon. Be kind. Let's play in nature, and you can do this. Remember, Violet, it's pencil miles. And the more you do, the better it gets. So your brain is totally plastic. And the parts of it that you use more, those grow. And that's that's right. How often do you get where people just happen to be kind of sitting around their living rooms with brains on hand? This is good. This is very good. All right, everybody, y'all take care. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jack, and happy birthday.
Thank you very much.